Welcome back to Deep Dive. Today we're tackling, well, one of the biggest, most persistent mysteries out there, the Egyptian pyramids. And maybe, just maybe, forget some of the things you've probably heard. You know, the usual suspects, aliens, masses of slaves, because the sources we've gathered for you, the articles, the archaeology, they paint a really different picture. A picture of astounding human skill, sheer ingenuity, using, get this, just basic tools, stone, copper, wood, and built by a workforce that was organized, well-fed, free citizens. So our mission today, let's dig into that evidence, separate the solid facts from some pretty fascinating fiction.
Oh, absolutely. It's genuinely staggering when you stop and think about the challenge they set themselves. The scale alone, considering the technology or lack thereof in their era, it's completely understandable why it's fueled so much speculation for, well, millennia. But, as you said, the actual archaeological evidence, it tells this incredible story of human brilliance and, honestly, a level of collective effort that's, frankly, it's far more awe-inspiring than any stories about little green men. So, yeah, let's dive into that surprising, very human story.
Okay, let's really zero in then on that scale, just the size of these things. Start with the big one, the icon, the Great Pyramid of Giza. We're talking about something built, what, roughly 4,500 years ago? Originally, it stretched 146 meters tall. That's like, what is that, a 45-story building, built block by block. Even today, after thousands of years of erosion, it's still about 138 meters high. Impressive. But here's where the numbers just, they really hit you. It's made of over 2.3 million stone blocks. Just try to picture that volume. And each block, on average, weighed about 2.5 tons.
Right, about the weight of a large SUV, maybe.
Exactly. Your typical family car, maybe a bit more. But then some of those blocks, especially the big granite ones, maybe low down or in the chambers, they weighed an astounding 70 tons.
70?
Tons. 70 tons. It's like trying to move a small apartment building, but without cranes, without hydraulics, without anything we rely on. So the immediate question, the one everyone asks looking at it, is how on earth did they even start to move these things, let alone lift them?
Well, before we even get to the lifting, the how, it's really important we nail down the who. Because for such a long time, the story you heard everywhere, in movies, books.
Yeah, Charlton Heston, whips.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
Masses of slaves suffering under the pharaoh's command. But your sources, and honestly, decades of solid archaeology, they really blow that myth out of the water. The truth is, well, it's more complex.
Yeah.
And actually, much more impressive. What we understand now is that this was a massive, highly organized national project. The workforce, skilled craftsmen, yes, engineers, architects, but also a huge number of seasonal workers, primarily farmers. They worked on the pyramids during the annual Nile inundation.
Ah, right, when the fields were flooded and they couldn't farm anyway.
Precisely. And the crucial point here, these weren't slaves. All the evidence suggests they were paid workers. They were given rations, huge amounts of bread, beer, fish, meat.
So they were looked after.
Very well looked after. Provided with water, clothing, shelter, and dedicated villages near the sites. We found bakeries capable of feeding thousands, barracks, even cemeteries. And in those cemeteries, we find skeletons showing healed bones, evidence of medical treatment.
Wow, medical care.
Yeah, proper medical attention. This points to a society that could mobilize and sustain this enormous skilled workforce for decades. It's not about brutal enslavement. It's about incredible organization and perhaps civic duty or religious devotion.
That completely changes the perspective, doesn't it? From sheer brutality to this sophisticated, organized national effort. A really powerful shift in understanding. Okay, but even with this huge, organized, well-fed workforce, the tools, we're still talking pre-Iron Age, right? No steel, definitely no engines. Imagine trying to build your house today with just, well, rocks and bits of copper.
Exactly. Their toolkit seems incredibly basic to us. Stone hammers, pounders for quarrying, shaping the rough blocks, lots of wood for things like sleds to drag the blocks.
Sleds for 70-ton blocks.
Well, yes, over specially prepared surfaces, maybe wetted sand to reduce friction. We see depictions of this. And ropes, lots of rope, presumably made from papyrus or other fibers, livers to simple machines. Now, for cutting the harder stones like granite, they mainly use copper chisels.
But copper's pretty soft, isn't it, compared to granite?
It is. That's the genius part. Copper alone wouldn't do much. They used an abrasive. Sand, quartz sand, most likely. Yeah, they'd pour water and sand into the cut line, then work the copper chisel back and forth. The hard sand grains trapped under the copper actually did the cutting, grinding away the stone slowly but surely.
Wow, that's That's incredibly resourceful, figuring that out.
It shows a deep understanding of materials, of basic physics, long before we wrote down the formulas.
Okay, that abrasive technique is fascinating. Makes you appreciate the sheer time involved, too. But okay, moving them on the ground is one thing, getting them up hundreds of feet in the air. That's surely the biggest engineering headache. And this is where the big debates are, right? The ramp theories. So, first idea, the straight ramp. Simple concept. Build a massive earthen ramp straight up one side.
Right, just drag the stones directly up the slope.
Seems logical, but then you do the math.
Uh-huh. The problem is the sheer size of the ramp itself.
Exactly. To keep the slope gentle enough to actually haul, say, a 2.5-ton block, let alone a 70-ton one, that ramp would have to be incredibly long, maybe a mile long to reach the top of the Great Pyramid.
It would potentially contain as much material, maybe even more, than the pyramid itself.
And then what? You have to dismantle this colossal structure afterwards, it seems.
Yeah.
Inefficient. All right, so theory 2, the spiral ramp.
This one winds around the outside of the pyramid as it goes up.
Saves ground space, obviously. You don't need that mile-long approach.
True, but it brings its own problems. How do you ensure the corners are perfectly aligned? How do you maintain those smooth faces if there's a ramp clinging to it?
Yeah, and as you get higher, the pyramid gets narrower. That ramp would become incredibly tight, steep, maybe unstable.
Potentially, yes, especially maneuvering heavy blocks around tight corners.
Okay, and then there's the lever theory. Let's bet ramps more about lifting.
The idea here is using levers to sort of walk the blocks up layer by layer.
Like lever it up a bit, slide some packing underneath, reset the lever, lift again.
Something like that. Or maybe larger levering systems.
Seems plausible for maybe smaller blocks or getting things into final position.
It could work for some parts. But imagine the coordination needed for millions of blocks, especially the heavy ones, just using levers.
The manpower, the time. It seems incredibly complex logistically.
And this is where the consensus among many Egyptologists now seems to be heading, based on the evidence we have. It probably wasn't just one single method.
Ah, a combination.
Exactly. A hybrid approach. It makes sense, doesn't it? Use what works best for each stage. They likely used large, perhaps straight or zigzagging ramps for the lower, bulkier sections where they had space and needed to move the most material.
Makes sense. Get the foundations laid quickly.
Then as they got higher, maybe they switched tactics. Perhaps an internal ramp, spiraling up inside the pyramid's core. There's some evidence, like scanning anomalies, that hints at this.
An internal ramp. Wow.
Or maybe levers became more important for the upper courses, or for placing the fine casing stones. It showcases this incredible adaptive problem solving. They didn't just stick to one plan. They adjusted. They innovated as they went higher. It's pragmatic engineering at its finest.
That adaptive approach, yeah, that feels very human, very real. And speaking of precision, it wasn't just about piling stones high. The alignment. The Great Pyramid, especially, is aligned almost perfectly to true north, south, east, west.
Astonishingly so. We're talking accuracy within fractions of a degree. This wasn't luck.
So how did they pull that off without GPS, without lasers?
Again, ingenious methods using what they had, the sky. They had a sophisticated understanding of astronomy. One leading theory involves observing the stars. By tracking a star, maybe one near the celestial pole as it circled Polaris, or the equivalent pole star of that era, they could bisect the angle of its rising and setting points to find true north very accurately.
Using the stars as a giant protractor.
Essentially, yes. Another method likely involved the sun, using a simple vertical pole, a gnomon.
Like a sundial stick.
Exactly. By marking the path of its shadow throughout the day, especially the shortest shadow at local noon, they could determine the north-south line.
Simple tools, but combined with careful observation and mathematical understanding.
Absolutely. Yeah. It underlines just how advanced their knowledge of math and the cosmos really was.
Okay, so we have this incredible feat of engineering, this massive, precisely aligned structure built by this organized workforce. Which brings us back to the fundamental question, why? What was it all for? The standard answer is tombs, right? Elaborate burial places for the pharaohs, safeguarding their journey to the afterlife. But here's a curveball from the sources that always makes you pause. No mummy, ever. Found inside the Great Pyramid itself, the chambers were discovered empty, essentially.
That is a crucial and often debated point. It definitely complicates the simple, it's just a tomb idea. Now, many other pyramids, and certainly the smaller tombs like Mastaba's nearby, clearly were burial sites. We've found mummies, sarcophagi, grave goods in those.
So the practice existed.
Oh, absolutely. But the Great Pyramid specifically, The absence of the primary burial evidence of the pharaoh's body forces us to consider other possibilities or nuances. Maybe his primary purpose was symbolic, a monumental statement of the pharaoh's divine power, his connection to the sun god Ra, a symbol of resurrection and immortality built to last forever.
More of a monument than a functional tomb.
Or perhaps a center for certain religious rituals, a representation of the primordial mound from which creation began. And of course, there's always the very real possibility that it was a tomb, but was thoroughly looted in antiquity. Grave robbing was common.
Right. Maybe everything was just cleared out thousands of years ago.
It's possible. It means we have to be careful about definitive statements. It invites you, the listener, to weigh the evidence and understand that history sometimes leaves us with questions, not neat answers.
Which naturally leads us to, well, we have to address it. The theory that just won't die. Aliens. Secret technology from beyond the stars.
Ah, yes. The ancient aliens hypothesis.
Popular culture loves this one. The idea that humans back then simply couldn't have done this. It's too big, too precise. It must be aliens.
And this is where all the actual evidence we've just discussed comes firmly into play. Your sources, the archaeology. It provides the definitive answer, and it's a resounding no to aliens. Look at the tangible proof. The quarries with tool marks, the unfinished blocks showing the process, the simple but effective tools themselves.
The sand for cutting.
Exactly. The ramps, the sled paths, the levers, and crucially, those workers' villages. Evidence of thousands of human beings living, eating, working, even getting medical care right there at the site.
Real people, not mysterious forces.
Real people. Every bit of data points to human planning, human organization, and incredible human effort and skill. Honestly, attributing it to aliens diminishes the actual achievement. If you connect it to the bigger picture, what these humans accomplished with the tools they had, that's far more profound, far more inspiring than any sci-fi story.
So bringing it all together, the powerful conclusion from your sources is pretty clear then. The Egyptian pyramids. Not magic. Not aliens. Not some lost super technology. They stand as this colossal monument to human capability. Meticulous planning, advanced math for the time, ingenious engineering hacks, and just sheer, organized, determined human labor.
It's a testament to us, really. And it really forces us to reconsider how advanced ancient civilizations could be on their own terms. They didn't need our tech to achieve wonders. They used their knowledge, their environment, their social structures to create something that still baffles and amazes us today. Their understanding of logistics, geometry, astronomy, it was incredibly sophisticated, which I think raises a really important question for you listening right now.
Which is?
Well, if an ancient society working with just stone, copper, wood, and rope could organize themselves to build structures that have lasted millennia, structures of such precision and scale, what does that tell us about the real limits, or maybe the lack of limits, on human ingenuity and collective effort?
Right. If they could achieve that with those constraints, what does that mean for us today? When we face challenges that seem impossible, maybe in science or society, or even just in our own lives, perhaps remembering what they accomplished gives us a different perspective, a reminder of what sheer persistence, collaboration, and human potential can actually achieve. Definitely something to think about. Until our next deep dive.